Today on This Week in Startups, Ethan Anderson, the co-founder of RedBeacon and the winner of the TechCrunch50 2009, rest in peace, will be on the program. We'll take your questions on a very special Ask Jason, and Tyler will be as insightful as ever. Let's do it.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. But funny how it feeds my people. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah, we ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
I have been waiting to have this guest on the program for months, and we tried to make it happen, and embarrassingly for me, we had to reschedule. It's actually the most rescheduled episode of Twist, and it's just ridiculous.
This is the only, it's almost like the, what's the...
Matt Damon?
Matt Damon.
He's the Matt Damon of This Week in Startups, where it's like, we were going to have Matt Damon on, but...
He has flown down here.
And then
been canceled on.
And I was sick that day, right? Or I got out of town or something. I can't remember.
But I think we've canceled on him. This is embarrassing.
2 times.
No, at least 3.
It's ridiculous.
And it's the only guest we've ever canceled on.
Right.
And it's 3 times on the same guest.
It's terrible.
And he got to a point where he's like, are you guys just trying to
sending him
me?
A message.
Right.
No. Yeah, everybody knows I love RedBeacon. I am a huge fan of RedBeacon.
But this is what's so weird for him.
I was one of the people who selected it to be in...
He knows. And
to
he's watching
be in TechCrunch50. And I was one of 2 votes that got him to win. But before we get to how awesome RedBeacon is, and I've used the product, and we're going to actually show how great it works for local services, and it's really an obvious. It's a non-obvious great way to actually do. It's it's like one of these great business model tweaks on local businesses that works great. But before we do that, I want to tell you about something else that's working awesome. Squarespace. They are the ultimate way for you to build a website. You can get on there and you can build a website. I cannot tell you how professional your website will look. It's going to look awesome. I think it's like $5 or $10 a month. It costs nothing, but they give you so much. It is the best way to get a website up and running for anything, your small business, for you, and it's flawless. They have a huge number of servers, so if your server like launch gets hit with thousands of people coming every minute because you have some big breaking piece of editorial or the conference, it's flawless and fast. 24-hour support, full-featured iPad app, and they updated their iPhone app, and the new version, Anthony told us, is going to be coming out. We saw him at South by Southwest, and actually Kevin Rose was talking about how amazing it is as well. He's a big fan of the product. Go to squarespace.com/twist and get a 14-day free trial with no obligation. Go try it out, and if you do try it out and you forward your receipt, any receipt, for $1, for $10, for $100, whatever you do, it's up to you how you want to buy the product. But if you send a receipt, I am going to thank you by sending you one of these beautiful This Week in Startups bags. Let's take a look at them. We had 200 made. There are 50 left or so. So the next 50 people who send in their invoice, just send in your invoice. And these bags cost $20 a pop to make. They're gorgeous. They're great for, well, look, I have one right here. You can put your iPad in there. You can put your MacBook in there. You can put both in there. And it's not like one of those bags where they're just like, oh, let me just put my huge logo on it. Very subtle. This Week in Startups, just like, what do they call that? Embossed? Embossed in here. So you just see it very, like it's an insider thing. People will notice it after the fact. And it's just gorgeous. It's the messenger bag that I use. Yeah, not quite a man bag. It's a full-on messenger bag, so you can put a full laptop in there. And so forward your receipt to contest or contests, either one works. Contests at thisweekin.com, and we'll send you that. Ethan Anderson was a product manager at Google who worked on the Google Video product. Also worked at McKinsey and went to Harvard Business School, which is pretty much the best business school. I mean, the Stanford people might disagree, but right up there. And I met him when he was pitching RedBeacon, this new product, back in 2009 or so. It was a Cinderella story. They came with this very simple yet elegant product to the TechCrunch50, the last year of it, right, 2009. And they wound up winning, and it was awesome. Mike Arrington and I both loved it. And welcome to the program. Are you there, Ethan?
Hi, Jason. I'm here.
It happened. Ethan Anderson is on the program.
Making, right?
We are not punking you. You are on the program. Thank you for making it. And thank you. And I apologize on behalf of Tyler for him canceling all the other 3 times.
He knows the story.
Absolutely. Tell me, Ethan, what is the mission? How does it work? What is RedBeacon?
RedBeacon is a way to find local services online. And the way it works is you request any kind of everyday local service. It could be a maid, a carpet cleaner, a plumber, electrician, a mover, painter, massage therapist, anything you can think of pretty much. You come to our site, you request the service, and then our very sophisticated algorithms will find local businesses that we think are qualified to do the job. We'll invite them to quote on it, and you'll receive on average about 5 quotes back with ratings and reviews, who your friends on Facebook have used, background checks, as well as their prices and the exact appointment time. And you press one button that says book it, and you book the appointment. You don't even need to pick up the phone.
Awesome. And if you go to the website, you're not browsing through a bunch of different maids or a bunch of carpenters or a bunch of folks who detail cars, whatever your local service is. You actually fill out a request, and then you send that to pre-qualified folks. How do you get those pre-qualified folks, and why did you decide to not let people browse through service providers or browse through listings?
Okay, well, let me take the second question first. It was a very conscious decision. We felt as we looked at the online local space, basically what our industry is called, there was plenty of people, including Yelp, Merchant Circle, yellowpages.com, and even Google, who had tons and tons of listings. So if your goal was to go out there and browse the web for businesses, you're pretty much taken care of. What we wanted to do is actually solve the problem for people. We wanted to only bring back what we think are the 4 or 5 best quotes. Think of it as solving the paradox of choice problem. Because no one else, if you're browsing, you don't know if that service provider is going to be available. You don't know if they're interested in your job. You don't know how much they're going to charge you. And so at that point, you're doing the same amount of work you were doing when you were just using the telephone and calling local businesses. We want to eliminate that problem, just like you would if you searched on Expedia and you had your flight information, 5 different flights, the prices, when they leave, you make your decision and you click with one button. So that was really why we made that decision. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, basically, you're making each party do a little bit more work, and by doing so, it makes for a better experience. Like, I have to front load my request. I got to give you the details. I've got to, think about it maybe. And then on the other side, the service provider actually has to actively respond, and they are not just calling me, harassing me. They actually have to do it through the system. So that means a higher caliber of person or provider as well, and more intent. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think that's right. There was a whole category of businesses that came before us called lead generation, right? And I know you've had Matt Coffin on the show. That was a great episode. So he's kind of like the grandfather of lead gen. And, that business was really more about selling your contact information to businesses who might want it, and then they'll bother you. They'll call you up. I think what we felt is that, that consumer experience kind of sucks. Nobody wants to get phone calls from random businesses that are really pushy because they paid for your information. So we said, why don't we, protect the consumer's privacy, not share the information, but just share the job details and the zip code. And if the business is interested, they'll bid on it. And at that point, if you select them, then we share the contact info, and we take a 10% commission on the value of the job from the service provider.
So here we put a couple of requests in just yesterday, Kieran and Carolyn from the launch team. And so we put in a photography request, document behind the scenes of a web series, natural, unstaged photos indoors. And we got 3 price quotes, just like you said we would. Joe Gonzalez, photography 200, addicted image 500, I May 120. Wow, there's a range.
Right.
And I see the addicted to image person is for an 8 hours, and he's written a nice response here. Again, the IMEH guy, only 120 for 4 to 5 hours. And Joe, $200 per day, 8 hours, $50 for an extra hour. Check the portfolio, mostly headshots, blah, 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 blah. And I can just accept the quote right here, and I'm off to the races.
Yeah.
And I can see that this person has awards and badges. Information, 48, reputation, 30, RedBeacon score, 78. Explain to me, how did he get a 78? And is that a good score or a bad score?
So it's based on a curve. So if you hover your mouse over the numbers, like the information and reputation, you'll see some of the things that went into creating this score. So which one are you on? You're on Joe Gonzalez photography?
Yeah, and I see he has detailed profile, portfolio images, website, logo, or picture.
And his reputation. So he hasn't. He has a pretty low reputation score because he hasn't done background checks. He hasn't verified his identity using Facebook and his credit card number, and so that's what's kind of bringing down his overall score to 78. You know, when I book jobs in RedBeacon, I typically like to find people in the high 80s or low 90s.
So okay, here's our IMEH, and he I see Facebook verification, basic verification, information 50. He has his Facebook profile included, so that got him to 50. Background check, wow, that's pretty cool. So he got a 33, and just like you said, he's above 80, 83. And he got some badges here, the Facebook verification I see, and the basic verification. How does that occur? I mean, Facebook verification, we understand, they log in, but how does the other verification work? Do they pay for that? Do you have a service? Do you outsource that?
There's like 3 tiers, and we actually don't make any money on that. We just pass our costs that we've negotiated on to the provider. The basic verification is free. All they have to do is offer us their credit card number, and then we can verify their identity. If they want to do a little bit more in-depth criminal record check, sex offender, etc., they give us their social security number, and we charge them. There's a couple of tiers, but basically $10 to do the verification, and then we show that badge. And definitely there's evidence that having that verification will cause them to win more jobs. So that $10 is a great investment for them.
But yet these guys didn't actually go for the full-blown verification. Is that something you guys have just considered picking up the cost of to make the system more reputable?
Yeah, we're basically, the basic verification is something that we're considering just covering. It's essentially checking the National Sex Offender Registry and just making sure that they are who they say they are. If you want to go and do like the detailed like county records checks where some guy is actually digging it up and verifying their licenses and their local kind of criminal past, that's a little bit too expensive to cover. But I would think that the basic verification is probably enough for most people.
So when I click this, I accept. I get a little book it and give the contact information. But do I pay through your system or do I pay them direct?
Nope, you'll pay them directly. And the reason is because a lot of times we find with the nature of our types of services, the prices will change. And so let's say you're having your roof repaired or you're having a hot water heater installed and they like come up with something else that needs to be done. So then what will happen is one side or the other will report the final price paid at the end of the job and we'll adjust what we charge them.
So you will invoice them or something like that? The $50?
We have their credit card on file, so as soon as they book the job, let's say you're on, who are you on, iMay? Or Image? Okay. Yeah. So, so if it's iMay, we'd make $12 instantly. As soon as you click that book it button, his credit card is charged. If you chose Addicted Image, we'd make $50 at that moment. And
if I break the appointment, it doesn't happen, does he get his money back? Is there
you have to cancel it through RedBeacon. There's a big cancel button. And trust me, you'll get a call from us or from them if you don't cancel it through the service and he gets billed.
Got it. So what cities are you operating in now, and how has the rollout gone for you guys over the last, I guess, 2 years?
Yeah, that's right. About a year and a half. Right when we launched at Tech Crunch50 in September of 2009, end of September.
Yeah.
So actually, I think it's very interesting. So, we're not launched in Los Angeles. And so I think it's quite interesting that you did 2 jobs and you had 3 quotes each. And I think that the jobs, if I look at the dashboard, were only put in at like 5 or 6 o'clock p.m. last night.
Yeah.
So basically, you had one morning when businesses were checking all this and bidding. And so that really is interesting. We haven't launched in LA, but we're still getting quotes. And here's how. We have essentially built up a massive database of service providers for the entire country who are not members of RedBeacon, but we think would be great people to do jobs on RedBeacon if we had jobs for them. So when you come from LA and you request a maid and a photographer, they suddenly get an email or a text message and sometimes even a phone call saying, we've got a real job for you in your neighborhood. Are you interested? And they're like, sure, why not? It's a real job. It's not spam. And so it's like, great, this job is free. It's on us. We don't even want your credit card. Next time you're part of the system, and if you want to ever bid again, you have to give us your credit card.
Got it. So the first one's free, but the second one you pay.
Right. And we only acquire the service provider when we need them, and we have a database built up, so we're ready.
And so what cities are you operating in now? I think San Francisco and Seattle, is that right?
Yeah, and DC.
How did you pick the rollout strategy? I mean, there's lots of different thoughts about how to do this. What was your thinking?
Yeah, so there was definitely a period of time, I'd say really for the first year, when there was a lot of product improvement and a lot of data collection and usability going on, right? We're now kind of at the point where we feel pretty good about it. So you'll start to see the pace of rolling out increase very quickly. We chose Seattle and the Bay Area because they're really the two most tech-savvy cities on the West Coast. LA was really complicated and would just require some product changes because of like, are you in Santa Monica or Glendale? It's all kind of
really
LA.
like 50 cities in one.
50 cities, right?
Yeah.
Like all the way down to the Mexican borders, like one city. And so, so we didn't do LA. Then we wanted a city that was a little bit different, like kind of DC. It's a very transient city with a lot of new people who need lots of new services. We thought there might be like a different East Coast mentality that we could learn something from. So we chose DC as kind of our third city to test some things in. Now, though, what you're seeing is that there's some verticals on RedBeacon that work so well that we've just gone ahead and launched in all the top 50 cities for those verticals. So it's complicated, but we have like a two-tier strategy going on. Yeah. We have launch every single city, every major city in America for some services that we're really good at, and then still do the city-by-city rollout for the longer tail.
So what cities, what services have been the obvious winners, and which ones have been the non-obvious winners? Or because photography seems like a non-obvious winner to me, and it seems like these folks have really embraced it by putting their portfolios up.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Obvious winners, probably like maids and handymen. That'd be pretty obvious, I think. Maybe some non-obvious ones. Movers are really popular. People doing local moves. Painters, electricians, personal trainers, all very popular.
Interesting. And so the company, you had a lot of interest after TechCrunch50. Talk about what life was like after TechCrunch50. And just the frenzy. I remember there was I was getting, I had to get at least a dozen emails from VCs wanting introductions. You guys were the belle of the ball. And I know Mayfield and Venrock came in for a pretty strong $7.4 million Series A. That's on the larger size of a Series A. What was it like? What were those meetings like after you won? Was it surreal? Was it awesome? Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, the immediate aftermath of TechCrunch50 was like the phones are off the hook. Probably 1,000 emails within a day. Phones never stopped ringing. Over 100 VCs reached out to us, so we're really fortunate. And that's, I would say 100% because of the, interest generated from winning TechCrunch50. So that was awesome. So what we did is we did some kind of introductory meet and greet meetings, but we knew that we weren't ready to raise right at that moment. And so we just wanted to kind of get to know some of the VCs so we'd know who to go back to when we're ready to raise.
Right.
At that point, we had no data. You know the rules of TechCrunch50, which you and Mike established, were that you can't launch before that day.
Right.
And so a service, it's kind of antithesis, if you will, to the lean startup movement, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of iterate and then kind of get bigger and iterate some more, and then you don't really scale until you're ready and raise a lot of money until you're ready and your product market fit is established. So we decided that, the three of us weren't taking a salary. We had two of us could program. Me, I could do the everything else except for program. So, we had one front-end engineer contractor, so our burn rate was really low. We used the 50K from TechCrunch50. We also won Business Insider Startup 2010. So that came with some additional cash and services. So we decided just to push it as long as we could and learn as much as we could, get as many users as we could, and only then would we raise. And we'd do a big round when we did.
And that raise went pretty easily. I think you had multiple bids, and you basically got to pick. Why Mayfield? Why Venrock?
So we had multiple term sheets. So we were really fortunate in that regard. Amazingly, the market had really started to pick up right as we were raising, so that was also fortunate.
Yeah.
Why Mayfield and why Venrock? I would say that really they showed a lot of passion for both the space and the opportunity and our team. Obviously, valuations need to be equalized and normalized, So like in the end, I think the final term sheets that we had were sort of all in the same ballpark valuation-wise. They didn't start that way, but you kind of, once you get multiple bids, you can kind of bring them all up to the same level.
Right.
And
how do you do that as an entrepreneur? Do you just say to the other people who are low, like, oh, your term sheet's low, and we have other bids that are, a $20 million post-money valuation. Can you guys get there? Is it just like that simple?
I actually, it's pretty much that simple. A lot of times, depending on the personality of the VC, they'll try to come in low. But then you kind of come in and you're like, look, I've got 2 or 3 other term sheets. You guys are really not priced as the market is expressing a price for us. You're kind of out way below that, and you're really out of the running unless you can be competitive. And so at that point, they have to make a decision. Do we want to be in or do we want to be out?
Right. So you're not nasty about it. You're just like, hey, you're just out of sync with the market. It's almost like a non-emotional, like just letting you know where you stand on the bell curve in a way.
Yeah, but there's probably one subtlety to that, which is that I wouldn't create like a frenzied bidding war. Like that's not really what we're about.
Right.
So there was one VC that we were really interested in. We really felt like they'd be fantastic partners for us. So I went to them, in this case, Mayfield, who's our lead VC, specifically, and said, "Look, would love to work with you guys. You got to bring it up to kind of at least competitive. You don't have to be like match it, but you can't be like more than plus or minus 10 or 15% away from everyone else."
So you were even a little humble in that we want to work with you, but it's kind of hard to work with you if you're so out of sync with the best offers. Can you come a little bit closer? You don't even have to match. Did they match or did they come close? What was the outcome?
Yeah, they essentially came within what we told them they had to get to.
Oh, perfect.
And so, in this case, I didn't want to be like, a douchebag and say, hey, if you, come meet this price, and then we're still not going to go with you, because I think that would just leave some bad blood. They've got to go back to their partners on their Monday morning meeting.
Right.
They've got to make the case of why I want to raise the valuation, and their reputation's kind of out there now. And so if you walk away from them, I don't think it makes them look very good. So I would be careful about doing that.
Yeah, you basically have to look at, hey, how does this, because they have partners as well, and you have partners, so if you're going to ask them to bring it up, they have to have a reasonable chance of actually winning the business.
Exactly.
And none of that, like, Price is Right, hey, can you beat their price by $1 nonsense, right?
No, not at all. We definitely did not go with our highest offer in terms of pure valuation, but we felt really good about where we were at, so it wasn't an issue.
And so how many people do you have now, and what does the future look like? I mean, you obviously have enough runway to go for a decent amount of time, but you're looking at the markets now. They're very hot. Are you thinking about doing another round? I mean, it seems crazy that you wouldn't.
I guess we are crazy. We have a team of about 15 people right now, 6 phenomenal engineers, a great UI designer, and the rest more on the kind of the business and customer service side. And, our burn rate's really low right now. And so it's like, given where we are, unless we have a substantial need for more cash, I'd rather just continue on focusing the business, focus on growing the business and rolling out nationally.
Some entrepreneurs of note have argued, hey, when the market's hot, why not take down extra capital? Why not have extra runway? Why not put the valuation up a little bit? What is the downside you see? Just that you don't need it? So
I
it's
think
a distraction?
Well, I mean, the market was pretty hot when we raised last summer, too. It hasn't changed substantially. And so you would need to have really, I think, given how much money we actually raised more than we thought we would. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
I guess some of the inside baseball is really that a lot of VCs feel like there's a minimum threshold that they need to get to of ownership.
Right, 30%.
Yeah, potentially maybe a little less. But yeah, there's some number.
Yeah.
There's some. It probably varies by firm and by round and all that.
Yeah.
And then we kind of had a valuation range. And then there's the amount you raise. Those are really the 3 variables you have. So you can either lower your valuation, they can lower their threshold of ownership, or you can like raise more money.
Right.
And so we ended up raising probably more than we thought we would need, even back in our Series A, because we held the other 2 things constant.
Right, yeah. You wanted to hit a decent valuation, and for them to hit, I guess, combined for the 2 of them, 30% or 35%. Hey, there's only one way to do that. The number's got to be bigger.
Exactly. And so we actually have, given how low our burn rate is, and that we have, raised $7.5 million, I don't think that we have a compelling reason to go to the markets right now. If we hit some great milestones and we are expanding like crazy and we're like really ramping up our marketing, then, at that point, I think it would make sense. And there's, plenty of interest.
What do you think about the Groupon space? And you have local social networks, Gowalla, Foursquare. How do these businesses impact you? You're working with local service providers, but they're not kind of daily service providers. And there's this check-in business, and then you have Google's getting much more active with Hotpot and their whole local business. What are those players around you doing to your business, if anything at all? Are they even aware of this business and this concept?
Oh, definitely. Even before Groupon was big, I ran into Andrew Mason at a conference, and he's like, "Yeah, I check out RedBeacon every month." He was definitely aware of it. Their business really, while it's awesome, and no one would wish that they hadn't built $1 billion business in such a short time. It's very different than what RedBeacon is. They're about pushing specific deals from specific businesses that can take hundreds of customers at a time. I think that the businesses that we work with tend to be one-off guys, many times not even on Google Maps, because like it's a plumber or electrician or a carpet cleaner, and they work out of their home and they've got a truck. You know what I'm saying? Like even a locksmith, or maybe they've got 1 employee. But location in terms of a place on the map is irrelevant to them. What matters to them is the service area. They also don't want to discount 40 or 50% off of their normal price and take 300 or 400 customers, which is way more than they could handle even in a year. So
have you thought about, though, like, hey, you got a handyman, maybe he's not that busy, and you sell 10 half-day, $99, 4-hour, handyman at your house kind of things. It might actually be just a marketing boom for both of you, both the provider and yourself, just to sort of, but then you start getting to the directory business. So you must have had these conversations. Do we do daily kind of things? But you shot them down?
No, I mean, there's probably something that we may experiment in the future. I think that, one of the interesting things, though, is go back to your quote for a second on either the maid or the photographers.
Well, here's the maid one.
Okay,
and
look at the difference in prices. Like, just kind of, if you look at those, $120 to $500, you're basically talking about 400% difference between your bids.
It's unbelievable. And the bids on cleaning are from, an on-site quote, which is like, oh, that's kind of lame, but $250 or $750. So, I mean, there's 300% difference.
That's what I'm saying. And so if you think about that, that's typical, by the way. That's not abnormal at all. Suddenly, if somebody's offering 40% off their handyman services, actually, who freaking cares when you have 400 or 500% differences between their quotes? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, you're actually
right. There's enough of a deal built into the system in a way.
Yeah, exactly. The analysis that we've done on the thousands of jobs that we've done so far is that people are saving an average of 40% by using RedBeacon already, which is almost the same as Groupon is offering from their daily deals.
I'm trying to figure out here, because I'm looking at this quote to clean a 10,000 square foot office, which is our office here at Mahalo, and you get a $750 and then a $250. Wow. I mean, it's like, I wonder, and they wanted, but the interesting, one of the public questions, hey, what type of floor is this? What are you looking to specifically have cleaned by TNT Corporation, the low bid? Why would they, if they want to ask a question, it has to be public so that the other providers can benefit from the knowledge?
That's exactly right. Like, the thinking there is that you, Jason, have not expressed any interest in this guy. And so any questions he asks you should be available, your answers should be available to everybody who's quoting. So you don't have to answer the same question 5 times. Now, now that he's quoted, though, do you see that button that says ask question about quote? It's next to the schedule. So click on that. That basically opens up a private conversation with him. And so now you have a private chat.
Got it. So I could say in here we have glazed stone floors, 100 metal desks, and 4 bathrooms, and a small corporate kitchen, and get, I guess, people to resubmit their quotes. When I put in that extra information, does it email all 3 of those people that more information has been provided?
It actually does, yes.
And is it limited to 3 price quotes? What if I want to get 5?
No, actually, our average is 5. I think it's because, this job came in late last night and it's in a city that we haven't launched in. That's probably just what the system generated. Typically, and before this job expires, it looks like you have 6 hours remaining. You'll get probably 2 more, because that's what the system will keep emailing people until you have 5 quotes.
So 5 is the cap you found?
Yeah, we actually learned that 4 is truly the magic number, but 5 is a nice round number. After 4 quotes, our schedule rate doesn't go up anymore.
Your schedule rate doesn't go up anymore.
Like, the percent of jobs that get scheduled do not increase when you get more quotes.
So the tyranny of choice perhaps kicks in, and now I am debilitated by the number of responses I've gotten.
Right.
What I love about this is, I mean, when we actually went through the maid request process here, or cleaning service at Mahalo, we did this with a Craigslist ad, and oh my God, was it painful. I mean, you're talking about hours and hours of work and phone calls, and this actually a much better experience, in all honesty, than the experience we went through. And actually, I think we did wind up using you guys for this. And so, what about Google's massive activity? You were a former Googler. They seem to be, I mean, with attempting to purchase Groupon for $6 million, the Hot Pot release, maybe pushing Yelp down in the ratings a little bit. Maybe not in the organic ratings, but by putting that one box up there in local, they've essentially pushed Yelp down. Is Google really a bully in this space now? Are they taking advantage in your mind, like the Yelp sort of folks have said, or do you think they're as entitled to this business as everybody else?
It's complicated, because everybody, regardless of what Google's going to do, people are going to try to game it so they can come out ahead, right? It's like Google is like the rule maker, and then everybody else tries to play within their rules. And I think, I know that Mahalo kind of experienced this just recently, as many of our competitors have. What we decided to do is rather we do have a new SEO strategy which we're just starting to roll out, but we made a conscious decision early on to try to partner with these guys rather than just compete with everybody else. And what I mean by that is actually literally going to their business development teams at the major search engines and work on partnerships so that we do appear in a way when it's a clear query for a local service and someone's obviously looking for someone, can you provide a better experience than just a website? And so that was our pitch to them. And we have a deal now with Yahoo. And of course, we're very interested in working with the other two players as well on integrating RedBeacon into their search experience.
So if I typed house cleaning services San Francisco into Google, I basically go to or I might go to, I see Service Magic is paying for ads. How would you appear?
Right. So there's a couple of different ways you could implement it. And by the way, we don't have something with Google right now. So,
right. But what about Yahoo?
We do have something with Yahoo. As of yesterday, they temporarily suspended the implementation because of some technical issues. But you would have seen a very clear call to action to use the RedBeacon partner to find your local service, to find your plumber. And it leads to a co-branded Yahoo RedBeacon page. We do a revenue share with them. And we always appear, which is nice. You don't have to deal with the SEO competition.
I do remember seeing the partnership you did with them. So basically, they get a little piece of your action. And you get some premium placement, I guess.
That's right. We have guaranteed premium placement. They're providing hopefully a better user experience because we care a lot about that. And they're getting a piece of the action as well. Now you'll see a lot of these types of things with movie listings. I think Open Table has something when people look for restaurants, and it makes sense to use RedBeacon when you're looking for local services.
Interesting. And how long did it take to get a deal like that with Yahoo? I mean, that sounds like a really hard thing to do.
It was a process, but the strange thing is like all of a sudden they just came to us and said, we're ready to do this now. And, within probably about a month and a half. And, our team is great. Like we have ex-Googler engineers on our team, so we know how search engines work. We were actually able to work very closely with them and put together an implementation quite quickly.
Final question. Going back in time, reminiscing about the TechCrunch50, tell us what it was like preparing for the event and being on stage and the moment at which you won. What are your recollections? What are your memories of that awesome time for you guys?
Well, starting with the preparation, so there's a period of preparation that is like even pre you guys, which is just getting the application ready and the video, making sure your product is going to be ready by September when the event was being held. That actually is about a 4 or 5 month pre-process that takes place, right?
Yeah.
Then there's the interviews, a pretty in-depth interviewing process. We actually interviewed with Heather Hardy.
Yep.
And then there was, once we were selected to be one of the 50, which was, phenomenal moment. Like even that was exciting just to be one of the 50. There was the preparation, which was really, I think, driven by you actually, with your feedback on the presentations and your reaction.
Yeah.
And I remember, I probably never told you this, the first rehearsal that we did, you were already kind of excited about RedBeacon. And we'd seen some tweets from like earlier in that day saying, just gave it 2 out of 10. They suck. I hope they can get better. So we were like really nervous coming in. And you were like already pretty good, already like a 7 or 8. It could be a 10 by the time you're done. So we just went like to the first bar we could find and just celebrated. We were so happy just by that.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I remember you guys were just light speed ahead of your contemporaries, or most of the contemporaries, I should say.
And obviously it's, phenomenal. 50 companies were selected, so it's pretty amazing to sort of be selected as that winner. I got to tell you, to be honest, I didn't expect it. Even when we were on stage, there was 5 finalists, and the way it was done is they were cutting one at a time. Now there's 4, now there's 3. Even when there was 2, I was like, pretty awesome that we're number 2. Yeah. Like literally, like I never even thought.
Who were they up against? Who was number 2? Good Guide?
CitySourced was 3.
CitySourced, yeah.
CitySourced, yeah.
Who else?
Clicker. No, it was Clicker.
Yes,
oh, it was Clicker.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, wow. And listen, that's a pretty good group. CitySourced, Clicker, and then you guys. And have there been outcomes in any of those?
There was the
Clicker
video,
just,
like they were archiving video DVDs, and you could search for them. What were they called?
Movie clips.
No, any clip.
Any clip. Yeah, any
so
clip's
they were up
been
there. They won, I think, some one of the Audience Choice Awards.
Yeah. People love them. They went out of business though. So those guys folded, but then we know Clicker got bought.
Yes.
And that was a major win recently.
Just recently.
I think that's probably in the $75 million, $100 million range.
CitySourced has similar outcomes that I have inside info that I can't talk to about.
So CitySourced is in play or doing well.
Incredible. They're now officially profitable and have incredible.
You are an advisor.
You
have a couple. You got your beak wet.
Here's the weird thing about CitySourced.
You did get your beak wet.
I introduced the two co-founders way back. I went to kindergarten with one of the two co-founders.
Interesting. Well, it's great that you're on the program. The service, I give it just two-way thumbs up. Everybody should try it. RedBeacon just works. It's that simple. And you know, my wife's used it. We've used it here at the office. Every time we've used it, we've had a good outcome. So I give it my highest endorsement. I really appreciate you coming on the program and being patient with us while we fumbled. Tyler, any thoughts on RedBeacon before we wrap up here?
I'm just glad to see it happen.
You're just glad to see it happen.
It was this dark cloud hanging over me, like he's not going to believe me that four times in a row we got to cancel on him.
I actually had used RedBeacon to hire an assassin, but I'm going to call him off.
Absolutely. You have an assassin category. Absolutely. Well, continued success. Give my love to the team. And everybody do me a favor. Just go ahead and check out RedBeacon and try it. You got nothing to lose. It works.
Great.
Nice talking to you, Ethan.
Thanks for having us.
Cheers. Really great entrepreneur. We knew from the moment we met them that these guys were going to be successful. And really, when Mike and I were picking the winners of each year, you were there for a lot of this. We wrote down what our top ones were. You were like the second vote in my half of the vote, and then Heather was like sort of his second vote. So you had this really like, I mean, this is sort of part of where the animosity happened, was that I had so much power in this structure that really freaked Mike out, I think, and Heather out to a certain extent.
He's not used to having to
deal with anybody. Yeah, I mean, he's just usually the king of his castle. He's like Shrek or whatever. And, you know, the one thing that was great about the partnership with Mike, you know, there's a lot of talk about all the things that didn't work. Mike and I were fantastic judges of character and fantastic judges of who would have the perseverance to then go on to have success. And Mike and I were totally simpatico on this point. We wanted to pick people who would be successful in the future, not just people who did a great presentation. We wanted the people who would have a winning business. And damn, I tell you, I am very proud of the work Mike and I did together those years, and that you were part of it, and Heather was part of it.
If you guys had taken that and then turned it into like investing,
it would be ridiculous. It would be Kleiner and Perkins.
Oh, I mean, totally.
Absolutely. Sequoia and Kleiner would be. If Mike and I formed a venture capital firm, the rest of the valley would bow.
Based on the outcome of those?
Absolutely, the outcome of those. Yes, absolutely. But we would absolutely, the police would be called every 3 days. Until every other Monday, there'd be like a police and an ambulance outside of Mike and I's partner meeting. But every time when we voted blind. And every time you were there, the first year, we picked Mint first, Parasite second, you did as well, Mike did as well, Heather did as well. Second year, Yammer, clear winner, Good Guide, and then there were some other ones that were pretty good. That was the second and third place was a little harder to do in that year. And then in his year, it was very clear that RedBeacon would be a sustainable business. One of the things about RedBeacon, you don't hear about it that much because everything occurs in private, but that's the power of it. It's going to be one of those businesses that just glides its way up to $50 or $100 million in revenue and gets bought for $400 or $500 million by Google, absolutely guaranteeing a 9-figure exit for that company. And you know what? The other companies, if Yammer was sold right now, and from what I understand, they've had opportunities, that would be a 9-figure exit right now. So all 3 of those years, 9-figure exits, pretty much a log.
What was Clicker?
Clicker, I don't know or can't say, but I'm going to guess 75 to 100.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a power buy, I believe. Power buy. And another power buy that you can make is to go get a .co. .co, don't you know? We are giving away a MacBook Air. When is this show going to air? Is it before or after April 1st? After April 1st? Oh, gosh almighty. Well, at this point, you will know the winner of the .co MacBook Air contest, and we're probably going to run another one. But what you need to know is that .co has, despite all the success that you've heard about .co and the large number of domains that have been sold, there are still many great domains left. 2 of the 50 companies that hit the stage at the launch conference were .co, Screener.co,
Top 10,
and Top10.co. Think about that. 2 amazing names, Screener.co and Top10.co, were available for $30 or less, depending on where you go. You can get a great premium domain right now without having to beg, borrow, and steal and pay $350,000 like the Color guys. Color.co might be available for 10 Gs. Who knows? I don't know who owns that. You can get great domains right now at .co. Go create your own opportunity. Launch a great idea. Tell them Jason sent you. Tell them Tyler sent you. And thank them on your Twitter account. Thank you at .co for sponsoring independent media like This Week in Startups. We couldn't do shows like this for free, at least. You'd be paying for these shows if it wasn't for the good graces of somebody like .co. .co, don't you know? And you know what? Take your .co and then go make a Squarespace out of it, and then you'll get you'll be doubling down on your This Week in Startups geary.
That's clever.
That's what you need to do. And then you start a MailChimp mailing list with it, and you're all set.
I smell a MacBook Air in your future.
I smell a MacBook Air in your future. Let's do an Ask Jason. Let me pick up the phone. Hello? Hello, who is it?
Hi, Jason. This is Zhou calling from Singapore.
Zhou from Singapore? Awesome.
Yep.
I think, can you put a pin in the chart, Tyler? Put a pin on the map. I think this is our first. Where is the map with the pins on it? We need the pin map that we can roll out and put all the different colors on there. You're calling from Singapore. Right now in Los Angeles, it is 2 o'clock, which means in Singapore we have to go backwards. How many hours?
It's
10, 8?
in the morning.
It's 5 a.m. and you're watching This Week in Startups. That's what everybody does in Singapore at 5 a.m. They're an hour into This Week in Startups. You have a question. Hopefully we have answers. Let's hear it.
All right. So my company believes that by using mobile-specific creative for mobile campaigns, brand advertisers can significantly increase their effectiveness for mobile advertisements. And that's why we have created MobThis. MobThis is a platform to create and serve rich media advertisements based on a graphical interface and customizable widgets. MobThis enables agencies and designers to rapidly create a rich media banner unit and accompanying mobile landing site with no coding. So in Singapore, we have worked with a couple of national publishers to build their mobile rich media advertisements. And we are looking to expand into the US market where there is a lot more demand. So my question to you, Jason, is what advice would you have for overseas entrepreneurs who are trying to enter the advertising technology market in the US?
This is a great question. A lot of times great technology is made outside the US and never makes it here. Some countries have tours. So for example, the Israeli consulate runs 2 or 3 times a year tours where they bring a dozen or so companies to the US and they meet with the top 10 companies here in the US. They have lunches, they have dinners, and during those they do a 1-minute presentation each, and then the people who are there, other CEOs or VCs or angels or press, will then go spend some time with them. I think that's a great thing to look for in your country, and if it doesn't exist in Singapore, reach out to the Singapore Chamber of Commerce or those kind of people and see if they have something like that. Now, that's one way to do it.
We are actually at South by Southwest. Well, the government of Singapore brought us to South by Southwest, which is actually where I met you in person. Yeah.
So that's a fantastic thing, and you got that covered. Now, you have to build a deeper relationship with the companies that could take your product and actually implement it in the United States or a partnership. So how do you do that? In some industries, there are agents who do this. In our industry, that typically does not exist. I don't think there's somebody in Singapore who reps technology firms and brings their technology here to the U.S. to be licensed, et cetera. You do see that in other businesses like television and movies. They have licensing conventions, et cetera. So since that doesn't exist, one thing you want to make sure is you have a great social media presence so people can find you and see your technology at work. Then perhaps find your contemporaries here in the U.S., either people who build advertising technology or even better, people who use the advertising technology here. And then offer them your software for free, ask them if you can show it to them, and just say, hey, listen, if this could be of value to you, we would like to let you use it for free and see if it can become a business and if we can support you. And just like you heard earlier in the program, RedBeacon saying, hey, we give the first one away for free and then we charge the local merchants, that should be your approach. Find a design firm in the US, find an app maker in the US who maybe has aspirations to run their own ad network. An ad network would be another possibility, and need the technology. Who has the mobile traffic, who's not going to build the technology themselves, or who are the advertising agencies, and who do they represent, who might, might be able to make use of this technology. That would be the best way, I would think, of going about it. Of course, you have platform issues, like is it Android or is it iPhone, etc. I'm going to assume that you're going to have an Android version. Android is exploding, and I know Android is getting...
ours is based on HTML5, so it works great on iPhone and Android and the new Blackberries.
So even better. What I would suggest is you make this software free. Make it free and get some hackers in the US trying it and using it and giving you feedback. Then once you have some pickup, make a trip here and meet your top 10 customers and hackers and see if you can come up with a business model. Right. You just need to get people to try it because you are going to be behind the 8 ball in terms of not having a sales force here to convince people to pay in order to try. You have to compete by giving something away for free at distance. But the good news is, if you design the website like 37 Signals or Zendesk or Dropbox or any of these great world-class SaaS services, if you just design your website like a SaaS service and make it free for now, and maybe there's a $10 version which includes support, or $25 a year, something minor. People, if you just copy that design straight up, people will assume you're a U.S. company. That's one of the great things going on right now. Nobody on the internet knows if you're a dog. Nobody on the internet knows if you're in Singapore or if you're in Europe or if you're in the United States. Tyler was in Helsinki for one of the shows last week. Nobody even knew that he was in Helsinki if I didn't tell them. So I hope this helps. Tyler, any thoughts on how to bring his product here to the United States, advertising platform? I mean, there's ad tech and stuff like that, but I think he's going to get lost at ad tech. There's too much competition. I think going to an ad tech or some conference like that, you'll be just lost in translation. Those people are going to be too busy for you. You need to find those people when they're not busy, not at South by Southwest, maybe not at ad tech, but maybe in their offices during a slow week, maybe the summer. Hey, I'm going to be in the Valley. I'm trying to meet with 10 people who might be able to use this software. And just get them educated on it.
What partners, what brands from the U.S. play any kind of role in Singapore?
Yeah, are there brands and technology companies or advertising agencies like WPP that operate there?
Yeah, Singapore is like the regional hub for advertising for Southeast Asia, so a lot of agencies do have their offices headquartered here.
Yeah, I think that's another possibility is you get one of those agencies to bring you to their New York office, to their LA office. And you might be able to get them to do it on their dime, especially if you offer them the service for the software for free for the first 6 months or a year, or for the first 5 clients. So use that ambition, that raw ambition that people like to see in young technology entrepreneurs. Use that to your advantage. Tell them, I'm just desperate. I'm so passionate about this. I just want to see my product get used. That could be BS. You just want to become a billionaire. You just want to make tons of money. Don't say that. Say, I just want to see people use my software. I've worked so hard on it. And let the
agencies know that you want to get into the U.S. market, and you're willing to, make it real easy for the first.
Absolutely, make it super easy because you know what? They might be dealing with rich media advertisers who are trying to,
looking for the bottom
extort them
dollar. Yeah.
I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I have been offered to use some rich media advertising, and they're like, yes, $17 a CPM. I'm like, we're selling our CPMs for $8, and you want $2? What? So you need to use perhaps some aggressive pricing and some freebies to get to shake things up a little bit. That might be really refreshing if you provide a little customization and a great price. You can really compete against some of these U.S. firms that have massive overhead and that like DoubleClick was just. I mean, I don't know about negotiating with DoubleClick now, but 2 years ago, negotiating with DoubleClick was like meeting Tony Soprano at the Bada Bing at 3 in the morning to try to get a donut route or something. I mean, it was hard. That's a quote. Right. You can put that DoubleClick and put that in their marketing kit. Okay.
Well, what do you hiring someone?
Hiring somebody is that see that's interesting too. And so then the question there is, do you get an expat? Do you find somebody who from Singapore who went to business school there and wants to rep you? That's what I would think. Get a guy like Ethan Anderson who went to Harvard Business School. You find somebody who is from Singapore, and maybe you can make some local connection with them, who then went to Stanford or to Harvard or to Penn or whatever it is. You might be able to find someone like that who speaks the language, who understands where you're coming from. Maybe your moms know each other or something crazy like that. You've got some context with each other, and you can say, hey, listen, I know you've got your degree there, and you understand our market. Would you like to take our product? You're an MBA. We're technical. All those MBAs are desperate to find technical people to partner with them. So go troll the MBA schools. And they
love to market like crazy.
Yeah, they love to market and sell this stuff. So that's not a bad idea. Hiring a person will get expensive, and you're not going to be able to manage them. So I think what you need more is a partner. And so you bring them in and say, listen, maybe we could work together for a couple of months on an experimental basis. If it works out, maybe we could partner on the company, and you could be the CEO of the U.S., or the president of the U.S. division.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
Good luck with it, and keep us abreast of your success. And thank you for calling in. Is it Zoe or Zoe?
Zhou.
Just Zoe.
Yep.
That is a cool-ass name. Zoe. Awesome. Great. We got a lot of This Week in Startup fans in Singapore, yeah?
Not yet. I don't think so.
You need to host a meetup. You need to have a meetup for
Yeah.
This Week in Startups. You need to get 5 companies to present, and then we'll have you phone in. Get 10
I
people.
don't think that's the problem.
Yeah,
So-
5 a.m. You all have breakfast while we do it. No, we'll do like we'll do an 8 p.m. show so they could be like 10 o'clock in the morning there or something.
Yeah.
All right. Well, have a great rest of the week, and good luck with everything. Whoops, lost my microphone there. Thank you to the crew for rebounding after we had a little bit of Skype trouble, which hopefully you guys will not be aware of when you watch the program. Thank you to @Squarespace. Thank you to @.co. Thank them on your Twitter right now for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. And thank you to the crew. Thank you to Tyler. Thank you, Kieran. And we'll see you all next time on This Week in Startups.
That's what it's all about, man. Hey, Sid, money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.